Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this TradeStation webinar, The Art of TradeStation. And today's title is Creating Custom Studies and Strategies Using EasyLanguage. So this is more like an introduction to the programming language that drives every indicator and strategy inside of the TradeStation platform. For those that don't know me, my name is Jesus Nava. I'm the Director of Client Training and Education for TradeStation Securities. And for me, it's always a pleasure to talk about TradeStation and show you tips and tricks on the TradeStation platform so that you can take full advantage of all the functionality that it's there. But before we get started on this topic of programming, custom studies, and strategy, let's go through some disclosures. Keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I talk about is for educational purposes only. These are not recommendations of TradeStation. Also, active trading is not suitable for everyone. It should only be done with risk capital, and past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. For additional information on these disclosures, we have a link right there at the top of this slide, www.tradestation.com/important-information, in case you need a little bit more details on these disclosures. We also have the options and the futures disclosures towards the bottom in case you want to apply some of your technical or custom studies and strategies to any of these two asset classes. So welcome everyone to this class. I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your schedules to learn a little bit about TradeStation. And I'm going to ask you a question about EasyLanguage. I know that we have over 100 people here in class, and I'm going to assume that most of you already use TradeStation. So here we have a mixture levels of expertise. I suppose that a lot of you here are looking for additional tips and tricks. A lot of you are, this is just your first exposure to EasyLanguage. Okay, so let's go through the content. You know, we're gonna go through some simple exercises. So for those of you that have used TradeStation EasyLanguage for some time, maybe it's a good opportunity to see if there's anything new that you didn't or were not aware of before. So let's go ahead and get started. Definition: what is EasyLanguage? If you've been with TradeStation for some time, you know that EasyLanguage drives every study and every strategy that is already built into the platform. And TradeStation is like an open book. So you can open any study and any strategy and see how it's written. So it is a combination, if you want to read, textually the definition that's here, a combination of words, operators, and punctuation used to create rules or instructions that are based on market data, and TradeStation will follow to perform one or more analytical tasks. Those analytical tasks, of course, depends on the type of study that you're creating. Sometimes your study will draw a line, like a moving average. Sometimes you'll look at an RSI, or you'll look at channels like the price channel or the Keltner channel or Bollinger Bands. Whatever the study is, TradeStation will follow your instructions and will do exactly what you intend that study to do. And on another side of EasyLanguage, we have strategies, which are designed to generate orders into the market. Today, we're going to take one simple idea from its concept idea, develop it into an indicator, and drive it all the way through and convert it into a strategy. But EasyLanguage is precisely that. It's a programming language, allows you to put your ideas into something that TradeStation can understand and react to your own creativity when it comes to trading the markets. And that's the whole purpose here. We want TradeStation to be as flexible as possible with all the customization that you need in order for it to do what you want it to do. Benefits, well, first, you can translate, I think I alluded to this, translating your trading ideas into analysis techniques and strategies in EasyLanguage. A lot of times, you think of something that you want to test. A lot of times we find studies that are hard-coded that don't give us the flexibility to modify its calculations. Well, that's not true with TradeStation. You have full flexibility. You can open up something as simple as a moving average and change the way that it's calculated. And that's a way for you to bring in your own ideas and test them within the TradeStation platform. Because a lot of times, you want to combine different concepts together. What if I combine a moving average concept with an RSI? Or what if I do a Bollinger Band with a CCI average or an ADX? A lot of these combinations of technical ideas can produce very good trading strategies. And what best to have a trading software that allows you to do these types of tests and have and develop that sort of confidence on these ideas that you're testing. You can also edit and modify the easy language of built-in analysis techniques and strategies. We also talked about this, if you think of the Bollinger Band, because a lot of times you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of technical studies that are good, that are simple, and that are effective. And maybe you just want to modify the idea a little bit, maybe give it your own spin to the same concept. Well, if that's the case, then yeah, we have you or give you the ability so that you can open up these known these known technical ideas and modify them so that you can make them your own. You can also read, understand, and learn from what others have written. I'm going to emphasize a lot today that we have discussion forums where there are, again, open discussions, not to be redundant, but there are open discussions on easy language and technical ideas, and I want everyone to benefit from them. I'm not sure, Manolo, if you have a link to the support forums. Maybe you can find it somewhere, but if anybody wants to know where the support forums are, they are in the client center. So make sure that you go there and you find this whole community that talks about easy language. And just keep in the back of your mind that easy language is the way that you're going to be able to customize TradeStation to be the trading platform that you want. You can also understand how analysis techniques and strategies are calculated. There is, a certain edge that you acquire when you understand the technicalities of a study. A lot of times, traders may look at a signal and may be enticed to trading that signal somewhat blindly, in the sense that they don't fully understand the reasons why a particular signal is being generated. Understanding easy language gives you that little bit of an edge where you can open up the code and see the specifics of the calculation. A lot of times you're looking at an RSI, for example. RSI, of course, is designed to identify overbought and oversold. And I think it was one of the examples we used today when we were doing the masterclass this morning. We talked about the RSI and how to modify the alerts. But the RSI is a calculated value that ranges from 0 all the way to 100. And where does the value come from? How is it? What is the formula? Because the RSI, of course, it's using price data, whatever the security is you're looking at, if it's an options or futures, is using the prices or the values of that security and doing all the calculations and coming up with a result that ranges from 0 to 100. So I'm all into learning and understanding the details and the calculations and why is it that I have this value and why is it that I can create this channel, all that sort of calculations. It's good to understand, and it gives you that insight into why a study is generating what type of signal. Let's take a look at some of the questions that are popping up. Can I download traits? By the way, the chat is open. You can submit questions. I'm going to glance at the chat once in a while so that I can address questions live, especially if they're topic related. If they're easy to answer, I'll address them in real time as well. Victoria is asking, can I download TradeStation app on a Mac? We don't have a TradeStation compatible version with the Mac. The TradeStation desktop is designed to run on Windows. So if you do have a Mac, one solution would be to run Windows on a Mac so that you can install TradeStation. There are some Windows emulators, parallels, whatever the solution is. Technically you could use TradeStation on a Mac, but we don't have a compatible version per se. Joshua, does a TS Masterclass go into advanced easy language topics? Joshua, we do cover easy language topics. Of course, we may not go into very advanced programming concepts. We did have a session called the Easy Language Answered, which we're trying to bring back. We do have experts in-house that are experts on easy language, and Easy Language Answered is a session around, addressing some more of the advanced concepts, as you call it. At the present moment, we don't have those sessions scheduled, but we are looking forward to bringing those back. All right. We're going to talk about open, close, high, low values in just a moment. All right. Perfect. So what data is used in easy language? So one thing to do before we even bring an idea into TradeStation is to know what data do we have access to? What do we have to work with? We have in an open, high, low, close bar, or in a candlestick, we have access to the 4 price points: open, high, low, and close. So in addition to that, we also have a time and we also have a date. We have volume data expressed in number of shares and also in number of ticks or transactions. We have options related data for those securities where it applies. If you're using, for example, a stock, that is going to have, actually an option symbol. It's going to have option volume, it's going to have implied volatility, and it's also going to have option open interest. We also have fundamental data for the securities that have it, like, for example, stocks. We have open interest if you're looking for open interest on futures. So those are some of the data components that you can reference inside of Easy Language, and we'll show you how you can reference those pieces within your code. One of the nice things or great things about TradeStation is that TradeStation will manage and maintain the data for you. The databases are already created, not in like other programming languages where one of the first concerns is creating a database of elements that you can tap into. That has already been done for you. And our data team has a server that you can just pretty much request data, and it'll be served upon request. And all this data is maintained by the TradeStation team. Analysis techniques that you create inside of TradeStation will begin calculating on the very first bar of a chart. And that all depends on the amount of historical data that you load on the chart. TradeStation gives you what's called a default amount of historical data. So if you bring up, for example, a 5-minute chart, it'll give you 5 days of historical data. If you pull up a daily chart, it'll give you 2 years of historical data. Not to imply that that's all the data that's available, it's just a starting point. So if you do want to request more data, TradeStation has a massive historical database that you can tap into. So if you wanted to test an idea against 5-minute data, but you want that data to go back 1, 2, 5 years, all that data is available for you to test, and it's just a matter of requesting it. Once you download all that data and load it onto a chart, when you apply a technical study or a strategy, let's say, we're going to start calculating on the very first bar of the chart, depending on how much history you have. So if you have 5 years of 5-minute data, it's going to go back 5 years and start on that very first bar, and then start calculating bar by bar going forward until it reaches the most current bar. And the very nice thing about these custom studies is that once they are applied to the TradeStation chart, the chart is set up to update in real time, all your indicators and strategies will be calculated on a tick by tick basis. All right, so that's the nature of Easy Language. And I think it's to address part of your question, Rod. Once it reaches the end of the bar, yes, if you see the chart updating tick by tick, which most charts will do by default, unless you change, the end date. If you don't change the end date, it's designed to update real time. So as soon as the chart is updating tick by tick, your analysis techniques and strategies will update tick by tick. Okay. One thing to keep in mind, Rod, to address your question very quickly, is that the strategy performance report only accounts for closed trades. So anything that's happening in real time is not factored into the strategy performance report, okay? Perfect. And Victoria, your question, can you be logged in 2 devices at the same time? Not at the present moment. We used to do that back in the days, but because of exchange regulation, we're not allowed to provide you this functionality. So you do need separate logins to do that. Some of the EasyLanguage elements that we all need to be aware of, and we're going to go through some of the things that are simple. You don't have to remember every single element. As you dive into programming EasyLanguage, you're going to feel like some of these are going to be second nature to you because you get used to them. Like, for example, EasyLanguage is not case sensitive. So if you want to type your EasyLanguage all lowercase, it's up to you. If you want to shout your EasyLanguage and use capital letters for everything, that's acceptable as well. If you want to use a combination of capital letters and lowercase, which is what I do, that's also fine, but it's not case sensitive. Also, line returns, spacing, paragraph indents, they're only there for readability. They do not affect the EasyLanguage instructions. So sometimes I give myself a little bit of space between lines or spaces between words. Well, you do have to, put spaces between words. Otherwise, not even EasyLanguage will recognize them. But a lot of times you need a little bit extra more space. You can do that. And that does not affect EasyLanguage. EasyLanguage does not look at spaces. And EasyLanguage requires the proper use of punctuation. When EasyLanguage requires a comma, you cannot replace it with something else. You have to use a comma. The same goes with semicolons, parentheses, quotations, whatever the punctuation mark, EasyLanguage is going to be sensitive to what it needs. And we're going to put expressions together. And here's the first grammar, I would say grammar rule of EasyLanguage. Every statement ends with a semicolon. Every time you want to end a statement, you have to finish it with a semicolon. In regular English, in order for you to finish a sentence, you use a period, right? That's a signal that you've ended the statement and you're going to go on to a different sentence. Well, in EasyLanguage, that punctuation is the semicolon. It's letting EasyLanguage, I've ended this statement, I'm going to go to the other one. If you don't use a semicolon, EasyLanguage is going to try to mix sentences together and it's going to be confused and it's going to probably generate errors. So make sure that every time you finish a sentence or a statement, you end it with a semicolon. We're going to take a look at a few examples when we start our code. Let's go ahead and take a look. Imtiaz, I see your question about is total automation legally allowed? I'm not sure what you mean by legally allowed, but TradeStation does provide you, the ability to automate strategies if that's something that you want to do. And automation, of course, at different levels. I do several classes on strategy automation and strategy development where we go into the details of this functionality. And we talk about the different stages of automation and how careful you have to be about what you're getting yourself into. But let's going back here to EasyLanguage elements. Let's start with our first exercise, which is adding plots to indicators. I'm going to show you how to very quickly go into something that already exists inside of the TradeStation platform and add more plots or more lines. For example, in the screenshot that you see right here on my PowerPoint, you see a picture of the RSI. The RSI is just one single line. And we talked about the RSI at the very beginning of the presentation. We talked about the range of values between 0 and 100, but this is the RSI indicator. It's just one single line. However, you may be interested in also looking at the RSI average or the average of the RSI. So that yellow line that you see there is just an average of the RSI. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we can do to the existing RSI or any other indicator to add additional plots or additional calculations. I'm going to go over here to my TradeStation platform. And this is a daily chart of Tesla. I'm going to go to studies, add studies, and I'm going to just put in here the regular RSI. This is the one that everyone has. RSI and OK. And there it is. Everybody's familiar with the RSI. What I'm going to do is I'm going to modify the EasyLanguage code of the RSI so that it plots an average of the RSI value. And that way I can probably look at the crossovers between the RSI line and the average and take that maybe as a signal that the trend of the RSI is changing or shifting direction. So let me go ahead and right click on this study. This is my shortcut to accessing EasyLanguage on any study. I right click on it and I click on Edit EasyLanguage from the right click menu. This will open up the development environment directly and open up the RSI for you without you having to go through the menus, okay? So this is the EasyLanguage code of the RSI. If this is the first time that you see EasyLanguage, it may be a little bit overwhelming, but it's not really, you know? I have increased the font size here on my screen so that it's a little bit more legible for you. You can also do that by going to Tools and Options, Tools Options. I've also turned on what's called line numbers. So you see right here on the left-hand side that I have line numbers to help me identify certain lines. So I can point to and tell you, hey, look at line 24, and you can see that it's plot 3, right? So let me go ahead and cancel. Just wanted to show you where you can change the font size and add some line numbers. But here, line 22 to line 24, it's what's controlling, or it's what's allowing me to see the lines of the RSI. The plot, or it's called the plot statement, is what EasyLanguage uses to draw on the chart. And whatever it's inside of the parentheses is the value that's being plotted on the chart. As you can see, plot number 1 is the RSI value. Plot number 2 is the overbought level. And plot number 3 is the oversold level. So when I go over here to the chart, it's exactly the 3 lines that I see on my chart. So if I wanted to add an additional line to my indicator, all I need to do is follow the sequence of plot numberings and add my own plot. Let me go back in here. And one thing that I'm going to do is, and this is something that you may want to do on your side as well, don't change the code of the original. Otherwise, you won't have anything to go back to if you want to go to the original one. So in this case, I always save the indicator as and give it a different name so that it exists in your list of indicators as something that you've modified. And what I do, let me go here to go File, Save As. Now the name of this indicator is RSI. What I do is sometimes I just go here and add a prefix. The prefix that I use on my indicators is exclamation JN. JN are my name initials, and exclamation is just because exclamation gets sorted towards the top, and it makes it easier for you to find your custom work. But when it comes to using a prefix, it's optional and recommended at the same time. As you rename, original studies in TradeStation, if you use the same prefix, everything that you've worked on that is custom will be put together. You'll see them listed one under the other because you're using the same prefix. And I'm going to call this RSI AVG so that I know that it's the average of the RSI. I may have a study already with that name, but I'm just going to try and renaming it to that. Okay, it's already in use by another indicator. I'm just going to spell it out, RSI average. Okay, you can see that right here at the top, the tab now says exclamation JN RSI average, meaning that I'm not on the original RSI anymore. I'm on a copy that I can just break and fix and make my own. Okay, the way that I opened up the code, Donald, is I did it from the TradeStation platform. And I right-clicked on the indicator, and from the right-click menu, I find an option to edit the EasyLanguage for that study. Okay, I see a couple questions here about the code. Shmuel, I see your question about is EasyLanguage also available on Mac or Apple computers? EasyLanguage is part of the TradeStation platform, by the way. And the TradeStation platform, it's not compatible with Mac. So you'd have to run Windows on a Mac. Could you create, this is a question from Craig, could you create an EasyLanguage code to show an up and down arrow on the RSIs above and below oversold and overbought areas? Yes, you can. It's a little bit more involved. And in fact, I may have some sample code of an indicator that uses little arrows. I think it's a code that John Brook, who's the person that does the EasyLanguage Answered, I think I talked about that session that we do that's a little bit more advanced. He created some sample code where he draws little arrows on the indicators. That's something you can do. Send an email for any follow-up questions, send an email to education@tradestation.com, and we'll do our best to provide you the information you're looking for. Manolo, if you can, put the email address right there on the chat so people can have it, all right? Larry, your question on the exclamation mark that you find in a lot of the built-in code is for language adaptation placement. A lot of places where you find this exclamation, it's just like a placeholder to make it easier for our development team to address language translation if they ever need to translate the code, not the code, but to translate the indicator into a different language. A lot of the names here are going to be pretty much English names. So if they had to create names that are a little bit more adapted to a particular language, they may do so by finding these exclamation marks, but they don't do anything to the code. I can come here and remove those exclamation marks if I wanted to. This is the question from Adrian. I would like to change EasyLanguage on the OHLC study so it appears on the current day session. Adrian, that's a great question. For any questions related to custom studies, please use the forums. The forums is a great way to get answers to questions that you have on EasyLanguage. So make sure that you leverage that resource if you're learning or if you want to customize certain studies. They provide quick answers, usually within hours of you posting. So make sure that you use that, all right? Now let's go over here. And I did say that I needed to add another plot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my cursor right at the end of plot 3, and I'm gonna add plot 4. As easy as this. As soon as you do that, you are already in your way of adding an additional line. Now, of course, it can be anything. I can be here and type in a 50. Let me just show you what happens if I just type in or hard code a number 50. I'm gonna come here. By the way, you guys remember when I talked about the semicolon? If you're finishing the statement, it's important that you add a semicolon at the very end. All the statements here have a semicolon, as you can notice. So that's a way for you or for EasyLanguage to know that that's the end of that statement. I'm going to verify the code. Verification is the process by which EasyLanguage knows that it can read the code. It doesn't check for accuracy though. It does check for errors. I'm going to click on this green check mark, which is my verify toolbar button. And as soon as I verify, I see that I have no errors and no warnings. Another thing that I do is before I put this on a chart is I want to modify the look of that line. Otherwise it'll use default colors and default styles. And the way that you access the styling of that plot that I just added is right-clicking on the code and going to Properties. In the Properties tab, I'm going to go to the chart color. Notice that I have my plot number 4 in there. It has this cyan color, which I can change. I'm going to change it to a more subtle blue. Let's use this royal blue. And if I want to go to the chart style, I can change the thickness of that line. I can change it into a dotted line if I want to, or any other style. So this is kind of choosing how I want those lines to appear on the chart. I'm going to click OK. And once you make changes to the style, you have to verify one more time so that the changes get applied to the study. So now let me go back here to my trade station. I'm going to remove the RSI that I added here at the bottom. I'm going to go to Studies, Add Studies. And as I said earlier, when I named the indicator, I gave it a prefix. So I know, and I give it an exclamation mark. So I know those are sorted towards the top. you're going to see that a lot of my indicators start with, I know, exclamation JN. I've created a few. But if I come over here and I find the RSI average, the one that I just modified, and I click OK, this is what it looks like. Take a look. Now, in addition to having the two, overbought and oversold lines, one at 70 and one at 30, I have a dotted line right at 50. Do you guys see that? How easy it is for you to create just a horizontal line? Just open up the code and put in the value at which you want to have that horizontal line. It goes right on the chart. But in this case, I don't want the 50. What I want to do is the RSI value, and I want to create an average of this. One of the things that I wanted to show you here, and I may allude to this again when we go to our other exercises, is that we have pieces of code that are already created for you. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. For example, when I said that I needed an average of the RSI value, I don't have to figure out what the formula would be for the average, because an average function is already built into the language. If you want to take a look at all the functions that are supplied with the language, just come over here to the dictionary. The dictionary is a little tab on the far edge or the right edge of the development environment. If you don't see it, you can go to the view menu and dictionary, and then it opens up. And let me just clear my search here because I was searching for stuff this morning. It opens up like this. I'm going to open up the section here for EasyLanguage. All the other classes here are for more advanced EasyLanguage, but the core EasyLanguage is going to be in the category that says EasyLanguage.ell. But if I go and scroll all the way to the bottom, you're going to see that user functions is at the very end. And if I click on user functions, it's not giving me user functions. Is it because, let me clear the search, EasyLanguage, user functions. Oh, that may be a bug. So I see the trend line. I see all these reserved words, but when I go to user functions, it's not there. I'm not sure if you're having the same behavior, but it seems like it's broken, the link here for user functions. This would be the way for you to get a list of all the user functions, and you get an example on how they're used. But if I wanted to search, I can do that. Let me search for the word average. I'm going to click on this little green mark, and I get a lot of information. I'm going to scroll. I'm going to skip all this, TS data, market data. A lot of that is EasyLanguage or more advanced EasyLanguage. I'm going to scroll down until I see the word average by itself. And it's not here. That's interesting. And I'm having all sorts of weird behavior here in the dictionary, but I was expecting to see average as a word so that I can search for it. This is the average list, not what I was looking for specifically. Let me go here and go to EasyLanguage.ell, average, clear search. Let me open this up one more time. Okay. I'm not sure why it doesn't want to come up, but that's the way that you would bring up a user function by clicking on the function name. I'm going to have to address this with the engineering to see what's going on and see why it's not populating the user function. Oh, it is working for you, Ron. Thank you for confirming. And Vina, thank you for letting me know too. I'm not sure, I may have to restart, but functions, gives you a list of all the things you can use in the language, and clicking on a function provides you an example on how to apply that function. So I can easily come to this plot statement and use the word average. Functions in TradeStation EasyLanguage appear as purple or magenta. And that's the way that you understand that EasyLanguage knows what that is. It's a piece of language or programming language that's built into the platform. So average needs parameters that create the calculation. It needs exactly what value is the one that you want to average and how for how many periods. I'm going to put that in here, separated with commas. So here we go. I'm going to average the RSI value for 30 periods. I'm going to hard code it so that we don't overcomplicate the process here. And I'm also going to add a custom name. I do that because sometimes it's nice to see what that plot represents. You see all these other plots have a custom name inside parentheses to know or to label that plot. So instead of just seeing plot number 4, I'm not sure if you guys remember when I went into properties, I have the RSI, the overbought, the oversold, and then I see plot 4. I see plot 4 and not a custom name because I didn't give it one. But I can come here and say, this is going to be RSI average. All right. Let me verify this. Now, if I go to properties, now you can see that instead of plot 4, it says RSI average, and it's a little bit more clear as to what is it that I'm doing, right? So that's it. I created an average for the RSI. I don't have to change the properties because it'll be the same blue dotted line. I just modify the calculation here. So when I go back to my trade station, you can see, I'm not sure if it's clear. Maybe I'll change the color here and make it a little bit lighter. I can do that also here on the front end and say, I want this color instead. And maybe the style, I want it to be a solid line and a little bit thicker. And then if I change the default or click on default, it'll send these settings over to the code so that they're always the same. And now I'm looking at a chart that has the RSI with a moving average going across it. So you can see how simple it is. You know, I did have to explain certain concepts about, you know, punctuation, statements, and functions, but once you find, you know, the steps to add a plot, you can do this on any indicator of TradeStation and add additional calculations to it. Okay, let me take some questions here. Are all the advanced features of EasyLanguage on 9.5? This is the question from Larry. Yes, they are. Let's see. John is asking, can I create an EasyLanguage line of code to identify an equity when the offer is a certain number of dollars above the last? Yes, that is definitely something you can do with EasyLanguage for sure. And if you want that to happen in real time, for sure, definitely. If you need help, you know, doing it, that's what we have forums for. So make sure that you're always accessing the forums for any questions on EasyLanguage. Let me go back here to my PowerPoint. By the way, before I go to the PowerPoint, take a look at this little dialog. It says this file has been modified outside of this editor window. Do you want to reload it? The changes that I did to the line, when I changed the color and the style and the thickness, get sent over to the development environment. And if I say yes, that changes the properties automatically for me, okay? Let me go back here to my PowerPoint now. And let's go to exercise number 2. We're gonna create an indicator. Very simple calculation. Remember that the concept here is to get you started on how to create your custom studies and strategies. We're gonna create a study that looks at the real body of a candle. The real body of a candle, we know that is the relationship between the open and the close. So the difference between, in this example, what you see here on the screen, the candle opened at 16 and it closed at 12. That's why it's a down candle, it's a red candle. And the real body would be the difference between those two values. In this case, it would be 4. However, if we want the real body to be representative to price direction, we have to use close minus the open. If we use close minus the open, we get a negative value. If you use open minus the close, we use a positive value. So in a concept like this, we want to stay true to the direction of price. So the order of operations here in this mathematical formula does have an effect on the result. One gives you a positive number, the other gives you a negative number, And since I want to measure the body of the candle and stay true to the direction of price, I have to use close minus open so that I get negative numbers on down candles. But let's go ahead and create an indicator that gives us the result or the measurement of the real body of the candle. I'm going to come here to my development environment. And the way that you start up your own indicator is by going to File, New. You can either go to File, New, gives you all the types of EasyLanguage documents that you can create, or you can use the toolbar button here. There's a little drop down here on that toolbar button, and you can also select the type of analysis technique that you want to create. You can see that there's different types. So you have to be careful as to what is it that I'm creating now. A lot of times, you know, it's happened to me too, where I select one of the types and it's not really the one that I wanted. And sometimes once you start developing the code, you realize that there are certain things that don't work. For example, you cannot have the word plot in a strategy, or you cannot have the word alert in a strategy. The same thing, you cannot use the word buy in an indicator. So a lot of things you're going to find out the hard way that you probably selected the wrong type of analysis or, you know, EasyLanguage. For the most part, you know, indicator is what we need. If we want something to measure the real body of a candle, an indicator can do that for us. We'll take a look at other types of analysis techniques in just a moment. So I'm going to use here new indicator, and we'll get to the difference between show me and indicator in just a moment so we can clarify that. All right. This is the question from Terry. You hard coded the average is 30. No, exactly, Terry. Terry's asking about my hard coded 30 for the average. Once you hard coded, it's hard coded to 30. If you want to change it, you have to go back to the code and make the change there. In order for you to go to the settings of the study and have that, you know, flexibility of adjusting the parameter, you have to create an input, and we can look at that here in this example. I'm going to create this indicator. It's going to be called exclamation JN real body. In reference to the body of the candlestick, take a look. I'm using the same prefix. I want it to be grouped with my indicators. I want this indicator to be available for both chart analysis and radar screen. And one thing that I do is I always select none for template. I just want a blank document. But if you're getting ready or if you're getting started with EasyLanguage, take a look at some of the templates here. They give you tips on how to get started with the code, and some of them are very useful. So take a look if you need to. I'm just going to select none to start off with a blank document. I'm going to click OK here. And all I want to do, first thing that I want to do is put my formula in. If you guys remember, close minus open. By the way, as you start typing, you get this little window. It's like an auto fill. It gives you suggestions on what you're typing, and sometimes it shows up. Sometimes I press the escape key to get out of it. So if it's in the way, just press escape on the screen. I wanted to put the formula in because that's what I want to do, but I want to draw that on the chart. I want to see a line giving me the real body measurement. So what I need here, it's a plot statement. We already talked about plot statements. We saw them in the RSI. The RSI had plot 1, plot 2, and plot 3, and we added plot 4 as the average. There's up to 99 different plots that you can add into an indicator. That is impressive, that you can have a study with up to 99 different lines. I've never seen an indicator that has that many, but you can get creative and start creating studies with multiple plots. This is plot number 1. I think I mentioned that whatever you're plotting needs to be inside of parentheses. And this is it. That's my first line of code, and that's all you need to do. Let me go ahead and verify this, and we'll come back here and start polishing it so that we can get a little bit more legible and a little bit of the best practices when you're writing your own code. Let me verify this. I'm going to go to properties again because I'm going to change or check the style. One of the things that I check is the scaling. Scaling because by default, the indicators will have their own scale. But if you want the indicator to be on top of the candles, you can use the same axis as underlying data. I'm going to leave it on a separate subgraph. So right axis is the way that I want to do. Chart color, red is fine. I'm going to leave it as a default. Style, I'm just going to make the line thicker so that it's easier for you guys to see. You don't have to do this. It's just my own personal preference. I'm going to click OK. Since I changed the property, I'm going to verify one more time. You probably already see that I'm getting into a habit here. I type the code, verify it, go into the properties to make sure that the indicator is styled in the way that I want. And then I have to verify it again so that it applies those properties to the indicator. So that's it. We just finished our first indicator. I'm going to come over here to my trade station. Let me remove this RSI that I don't need anymore. This is a chart of Tesla. Let me open my chart a little bit and go to studies, add studies. And I'm going to go here to real body, which is the indicator that I just created. There it is. Very simple, right? Now take a look at what's going on here at the very front. You see this value, 894, 895, 94, 92. It is updating in real time. I didn't have to do anything to the indicator. The indicator automatically starts updating in real time. That value, 893, it's telling me that the difference between the open and the close at this moment is $8.96, almost $9 between open and the close. Right now, this is a bar that is pushing the high. Tesla is up from the opening of today. In fact, is up by 7.6%, which is a very big up bar. We have the measurement here, though. It doesn't quite reach some of the extremes that we've had in the past. And you can see how these spikes relate to big bars. Pretty cool, huh? All right, let's go ahead and start modifying our code. Let me go back here to the code because I want to do a couple things. First thing, let me go back here to the chart and show you something. This indicator flops between positive and negative. And we knew that from the very beginning. When we were talking about real body and we said, some bars are going to be up, some bars are going to be down, we knew that it was an oscillator type study where it goes positive and negative. So it makes sense to have a zero line just to see where the positives are and where the negatives are. I mean, you can look at the scale here and kind of have a sense of it, but a line, it's a great visual. So let's go ahead and add a line at 0. I'm going to come over here to my code. Plot 2, it's going to be 0. I verify one more time. Let's go to the properties to make sure that we, take a look at what's going on here. Plot 1 and plot 2 is listed as a name because we haven't provided our plot statements a custom name. We talked about this just a moment ago. As we add more lines, we may want to add custom names. And we're going to do that in just a moment. But plot number 2 is going to be this line, and the chart color, it's going to be, let's go for a darker red. And then I'm going to verify one more time. Let me go back to the chart. I don't see the dark red here because changes that you do to style don't get applied to the code automatically. So I may have to add it again. So if you don't see the styles you selected applied to the study, it's because they don't get transferred automatically. All you need to do is remove the study and add it again. And then you have your study back in there with the colors that you selected. All right, so pretty cool. Now I have a study that is a little bit more clear. I know when the positives are and when the negatives are coming through. Let me go back here to the code because I'm going to refine the idea a little bit more. First of all, I said I was going to add custom names to these plots. So this is real body. And this one over here is going to be 0. All right, I'm going to add another line or another calculation to my indicator, which is going to be an average of that real body. Why? If I look at the chart, the line here looks like an EKG. It has no sense of direction. So my thought process is if I smooth the values here, I may get a sense of an average of the direction. You know, if it's an up bar or down bar, am I getting more up bars than down bars? Then I should have a positive average. Am I getting more down bars than up bars? Then I should have a negative average and get a sense of the direction of this security. So what I'm going to do is come over here. I may change the order of these plot statements if I want to. I don't have to, but I may. I'm just going to type in the word average. I think we talked about average on our prior example. It's just the word average, and then you open up the parentheses and you give the average function two things. You give it what is it that you want to average and for how long, or what's the period. So let's go ahead and do a couple of things. I don't want to continuously have to open, close minus open. I can make that a little bit more efficient by using a variable. I haven't talked about variables. Variables are really cool because you can assign a formula to a variable, and rather than having to type that big, old formula every single time you need it, you can just reference the variable. It makes it very efficient, and it makes your code a little bit more legible. So we're going to do that. And we're also going to make the parameter an input. So you have the flexibility that we talked about just a moment ago. That flexibility is important because it allows you to edit the study and change the parameter on the fly if you need to. So I'm going to make myself a little bit more space here towards the top, because in order for you to use inputs and variables, the first thing you have to do is declare those inputs and those variables. I know that I'm getting a little bit more into programming. So if this is your first exposure to programming, it's okay. Don't get scared. As you learn these principles, it's going to become very easy for you to do. And my declaration statements starts like this. One is inputs and the other is variables. Notice how the two words are blue. EasyLanguage knows what they are. Then you have a colon, and then you're going to list what are the parameters you need. For my inputs, I need a length. And I'm going to start it off at 10. And for my variables, I want real body and initialize that to a 0. Let me talk through a couple of things that I did here. Inputs, again, that is for you to have the ability to change the parameter on the front end. When you go and double click on a study and you want to change the parameter, and the default value is going to be 10. For my variables, let me add a little bit more space here. Real body is what's going to store my formula. Close minus the open. And I need to declare that variable and initialize it to a type of variable. By putting a parentheses and a 0 next to real body, that's letting EasyLanguage know that the variable that I'm about to use is going to hold a number. That's why the 0 is in there. If it was, let's say, something different, like a true false variable, you would use the word true or the word false. In this case, since real body is a number, 0 is the type of variable that it needs. So once you declare the variable, you have to assign the variable. Real body is going to be equal to, and I'm just going to copy this, close minus the open. Declaration, assignment, and once you have the variable assigned, all you need to do is, instead of using the formula here, you use the name of the variable. You see the connection there? So you declare the variable, which is the word that I'm going to be using for my calculation. Then you put the formula inside of the variable, and then you reference the variable. Makes it very simple. So that's the reason why I stopped here in average, because instead of copying the formula here, I want to create an average of the real body. You see, this is the parameter that I want to create an average for. And for how many periods? Well, that's where I bring in the length. Don't forget the matching parentheses. Remember that there's an opening parentheses for the plot statement, and I have an opening parentheses for the average. So I needed 2 closing parentheses at the very end, and then a semicolon to end that statement. Does that make sense? I just want everybody to follow the concept here because you're going to see that every study and every strategy in TradeStation follows pretty much similar syntax where you have an input declaration, variable assignment, and then your plot statements. Let me verify this code. Oh, by the way, I forgot the name of this plot. This is going to be RB AVG, real body AVG. Let me go and go to the properties. All right. Real body is red. Real body average is going to be yellow. And 0, dark red is fine. Let me just click OK. And let's verify this one more time. Let me take a look at my chart. Remove the indicator from here. By the way, I wanted to, because remember, properties are not automatically applied. The average, let me go to chart style because I wanted to make the average also thicker. Okay, let me click OK. Verify one more time. And let's put that indicator on the chart. Studies, add studies. And this is real body indicator. There we go. Now the average is using 10 bars where, I mean, it's a little bit tight. You can see that there's not much of a flow, but that's because of the spikes. You know, the spikes are what's really making our average look more like a flat line. I'm going to keep the 10. What I want to do is probably hide the raw plot. I probably don't need to know what the value is of the real body on each candle. That's not as important to me as the average. I want to see the direction of the average in terms of, you know, 0 and see if it's negative or positive, just to have an indication of trend. So what I can do is I can come here to the code. If I wanted to, maybe this plot number 1, if I wanted to disable it momentarily, what I can do is I can add a double /. Everybody sees that? As soon as I added the double /, it turned the line green, which green in EasyLanguage is just plain text. It's ignored. It's like skipped. There's like a notation. So I'm going to verify this one more time, go back to my code and take a look at my study. Now I see the movements of that yellow line a little bit more prominently because I removed the other calculations that are not needed. I mean, are needed for the calculation of the yellow line, but I don't have to see it on the graph because now I'm looking at this and saying, well, as the yellow line is positive, you can see that it follows the movement here of Tesla. The same happens, you know, when there's downward momentum. You see how this indicator moves to the negative side. So now we may be onto a different idea. We've refined the idea a little bit to make it a little bit more clear. So I know that I'm running out of time here. I hope that it's okay for me to go over a little bit because I want to show you a couple of things you can do here to this indicator. Let me see if I can address some of the questions. Alam, I see your question about how to learn this language. Again, I'm going to encourage everyone to continue learning EasyLanguage by going to the community, going to the forums, posting questions, see and take a look at the open discussions that are there. We're also looking at, I'm not sure, Manolo, if you can reach out to Nico and see if he can share with you a link to the EasyLanguage home study guide. I'm not sure if you have that link. He updated those links recently. So I'm going to share that link with the class here so that you have access to a home study guide for you to get started on EasyLanguage. All right. You can also send us an email at education@tradestation.com. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at what I was going to do. I was going to do something. Let me go back here to my code and show you a couple of things that I'm going to do. I'm going to create an alert on my indicator, and I'm going to say if real body crosses over 0 or real body Let me see. Or if real body crosses under 0, then alert. Very simple way of creating an alert. We create an if-then type of statement, where you, by the way, I'm getting ahead of my exercises. This is exercise 3, where we used a function. I showed you how to do that. And exercise 4 is creating alerts, which what we're doing right now. In creating alert, all you need to do is create a condition. And if that condition is true, then alert. EasyLanguage, all it needs is the word alert. And if the condition is true, it'll trigger the alert for you. And that's all you need to generate that alert. Over 0, process over 0. Let me see. Let me separate these. So I'm going to do 1 alert, and then under 0 alert. Okay. Real body. Oh, because this is real body. Let's go ahead and take a look at, I don't have the average calculation. I see. Yeah, because thank you for that, John. I was also looking at the average, and I don't have a function here for the average, which I can add. This whole thing that I added here, the average function with the 2 parameters, can be part of a variable as well. But it's okay. I'm just, those are things that you can do on your own time and try to polish the code so that it looks better. Let me show you what a show me is for. Let me show you what a show me is for. A show me is a great way for you to look at historical alerts. This alert message that I've added here only works in real time. So if I go here to TradeStation and I format the indicator, go to alerts and enable the alert, I turn that on and it'll trigger whenever the moving average here, or the average of the real body, crosses that line. So that's what we need to do with a show me. A show me allows you to look at historical crossovers. So let me show you what we can do. I'm gonna highlight the code here and then go to the new menu and click on show me. Exclamation JN, real body, cross. I'm going to paste it here, and my plot statement, let me come over here because I may need another variable here. Real body AVG is going to be equal to this right here. That way it's clear. I need to declare that variable, real body AVG. It's also numeric. All right. For this, I don't need a plot, or at least I don't need a plot or 3 plots. I'm going to say if real body AVG crosses over 0, then plot in a show me. What we're trying to do, a show me just plots a dot or marks the bar when a condition is met. So in this case, if the real body average crosses over 0, then plot 1, and it's going to put the dot on the close. If I verify that, let me go ahead and go to the properties so you can see what I can do. Let me go to the chart color. That's a red dot. Let's make it a cyan dot. And the chart style, let's make it a big dot so you guys see where it is. Let me verify that. And every time that there's a crossover, I should get a dot here. Let me go here to studies. add a study, go to a show me, because that's the type of study that I created, and then select the real body cross. And you see that every time that the real body crosses to the upside, I get a blue dot. Now that's interesting. So if you are looking for historical instances of something that has happened, then you can use a show me for that. A show me is just a specialized type of study inside of TradeStation that marks the bar when the condition is met. And these are very clear instances of where that line has crossed over the zero line. So interesting concept. Make sure that you follow it, okay? And I was going to take up a lot more time from you guys, but I just want to encourage everyone to follow your journey of learning EasyLanguage. I wanted to draft up a strategy and also an EasyLanguage radar screen indicator, but I may just leave that for a different session. That way we can spend more time on the elements that are needed to create these types of studies. But you can see how easy it was for me to think of an idea, go to the development environment, and then address that idea into code so that we can see it on the TradeStation chart. Let me see if I can address some of the questions that are coming through. Raj is asking, how do you refer to historical values of high, low, close, and any indicator values? Well, the same way that we did here with the close and open, there are reserved words that will tell you the prices of the bars. In this case, the real body, when it references the close and the open, it's referencing those price points of each one of the bars, starting at the very beginning of the calculation. If you want to reference a historical value on any of these, then we can use a square bracket for that. Again, a lot of these questions can be answered very easily by just posting in the forums. This is more of a way of letting you get a taste of what EasyLanguage is all about. Christopher, I see that you had a question on scaling. Could you put it in the chat again so that I can see it? I may have missed it. I'm sorry about that. Ed is asking, could you change the alert to change the color of the line? Ed, yes, we have something in TradeStation EasyLanguage called syntax. What is it called? Smart styling, where the line can change color depending on direction or a particular condition. So if it crosses, it can change color for sure. John, it seems most of the questions require the use of the forum. Yes, I'm not sure, Manolo, if you were able to provide a link to the forum, but let me show you where it is. I can pull up a browser here and show you exactly where it is. This is the TradeStation website. All right, I'm going to go here to, you have to go to login on the TradeStation website, and you have to go to the Client Center. So let me go here to the Client Center. Let me go ahead and log in so I can show you very quickly where you can go. Okay, this is the Client Center. And in the Client Center, of course, you would have to go to support here. The far right, we go to support. And scrolling down, you'll find all the community links. We have a TradeStation and EasyLanguage support. We have the EasyLanguage file library. I always refer to this link if you're interested on seeing what other TradeStation users have contributed. It's a great community where other users have created studies already, and you can copy and paste some of that code onto your own TradeStation. Okay. Sandra's asking, can you make the dots more transparent? There are some transparency functionality here on TradeStation. You can remove them. You can add a calculation to the show me, because the show me is going to draw on the close. But you can always say close and remove the location by adding some sort of distance. in the form of points. But here, if I go to the real body and I go to the style, I have this transparency that I can play with. It allows me to change the transparency of those dots. If you want to reference historical values, I see your point, Raj. Yes, we use the square brackets as well. Anytime you create a variable and you assign a calculation, TradeStation automatically creates a database. So I can say if real body AVG and add this square bracket 1, I'm referencing the real body average of 1 bar ago. And any number here references to that number of bars ago. That's one way to do it, Raj. Chris is asking, can we use the walk forward optimizer for all custom scripts to be used in algo trading? You can use all custom strategies instead of the walk forward optimizer for sure. And that way, you can test strategies, test ideas, and develop that confidence in that strategy that we talked about at the beginning. Christopher's asking, is there a way to make scaling uniform for MACD or other average-based oscillators, values across different markets with different price ranges? For sure, yes. MACD, of course, is going to be sensitive to the values of the security that's being analyzed. So in order for you to standardize the values of the MACD, you'd have to change the calculation for sure. But I can understand, what you're saying, that they are using different ranges, not like, for example, the RSI. The RSI is always from 0 to 100, but the MACD, since the calculations are using the values of the security, then they're going to be different on each one of those plots. But it is possible, Christopher. You just have to find the formula to standardize those values. Larry's asking, are there any plans for TradeStation to have bars with sub-seconds? Larry, no, I haven't heard of any sub-seconds bar. I know that we have seconds bar, so you can go here to time frame. Like, for example, we have a 15-second bar here. This is a 15-second bar of Tesla that you can pull up. It'll take a while to load because it's using tick data. But when you say sub-seconds, I suppose you're referring to like fractions of a second, like half a second or a quarter of a second. We don't have those on TradeStation. The smallest time frame is 1 second. And if you want anything smaller than that, you can probably go into tick charts for that matter. All right. Ryan says, you suggested that we don't change the default code, but instead change the name before making any changes. I learned this lesson the hard way after I saved over my MACD study. Is there a way to recover the original default study code if someone like me clicks verify prior to changing the name? Well, Ryan, yes, there is a way for you to get, the original indicator. One thing that I wanted to point out is that Control Z on the keyboard, which is kind of a history of changes you do to the code, keeps track of all the changes that I've done up to 100 steps. So if I hold down Control Z, you can see that it clears all my code from the very beginning when I started making changes to here. So if you come across an indicator that you accidentally verified, but you're still logged in, you can always backtrack using Control Z. I've learned that and it becomes very useful. But if you've already shut down TradeStation and the history of edits is already gone, then you may have to import from TS Pro. TS Pro is like the original or the file that you can import from. Let me show you here quickly. File, import. We import, the first option here. You'd have to browse for the file, and that would be under TradeStation, Documents, TradeStation, go here into Cal. No, go into, forgot where it is though. I can get the location of that file for you later. Send me an email, Ryan, to education@tradestation.com, and I'll find the location. But there is a TS Pro. The name of the file is TS Pro. If you search for that file name in the TradeStation directory, it'll tell you where it is. But that's the one that holds all the indicators, studies, and strategies that are built into TradeStation in their original state. All right. Thank you, Andrew, for the comments, for the feedback. I really appreciate it. All right, and that's it. So I don't see any more questions. I'm going to assume that they were all answered. There was one that I didn't answer though, and I couldn't find it. I think it was Christopher that was sending the question and I didn't get to it. I'm sorry, Christopher. All right, but okay, thank you, Christopher. Thank you for that. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today and spending this time with me. I apologize for going over, but there is a lot to learn with EasyLanguage, and I don't want to make it seem like it's the easiest thing that you can learn, because there are going to be some challenges and you're going to face certain situations where you're going to ask yourself, okay, what do I do? How do I do this? But I want you to be assured that we have resources to help you. There's people in the forums that want to help you. So don't feel like you are on your own, in learning EasyLanguage. That's what I want to end this class with. So reach out to us at education@tradestation.com. Go to the forums, post questions, just stay in touch, and we'll be here to help you guys, okay? Have a wonderful afternoon, and thank you for joining me today. I'll see you next class. Bye-bye.